Welcome, I'm Nina Griffin, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Today we'll talk about the astrology of week 4 of March 2025. First off, I'd like to say thank you to all of my patrons. I appreciate all of your support. If you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/Nina Griffin, and at the highest tier of the Patreon, you can get access to my monthly Magical Elections ebook, which teaches you how and when to make astrological talismans. This video will cover week 4 of March, plus 2 extra days at the end. March 24th, the Sun will conjoin Mercury retrograde at 4 Aries. Just a couple of days prior to this transit, Venus and the Sun conjoin, so we really have 2 inferior solar conjunctions coinciding. We can think of this as 2 cycles culminating simultaneously. First, that of Venus and the Sun, and today, Mercury and the Sun. Discussions concerning warfare would be one possible manifestation of this transit, since it happens in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. Remember that the conjunction to the Sun means the other planet is combust, and therefore it is in hiding. The discussions and negotiations happening now are happening in closed rooms. One important factor about Aries being a cardinal sign is that it is not conducive to permanence. If we want results to stick and have lasting power, it's the fixed signs that excel. Cardinal signs can be very hot and heavy to begin things and get projects off the ground, but just because we are having conversations does not mean that we obtain long-lasting results. To contextualize this conjunction, remember that it is the middle point of the Sun-Mercury cycle that began at 21 Aquarius on February 9th. So this is a cycle focusing on discussions about what constitutes a public good and how we provide resources so that society can thrive. So we have an Aquarius cycle whose culmination takes place in Aries. The discussions then are about what can be excised and cut, a good Mars word, and how operations can be made more efficient. Since this is happening nearly simultaneously with Venus conjoining the Sun, much of this will concern matters of relationships and harmony in society, who belongs, who is in, and definitely who is out. Mars likes to cut and exclude rather than include, so that is the theme of the conversation at the moment. March 27th, Venus retrograde will enter Pisces. As part of her retrograde journey, Venus retrogresses into Pisces, her sign of exaltation. She will stay there throughout all of April, and we see this pattern repeatedly in 2025, with planets retrograding into fire signs and then re-entering the preceding water signs while retrograde. This is a great improvement for Venus, who gets to cool off a bit after the extremely hot journey through Aries while combust much of that time. At this stage, we get to revisit matters of relationship that we basically dealt with all of January, while Venus passed through Pisces most of that month. Venus in Pisces is a quiet placement with a great deal of emotional activity under the silent surface. Pisces represents the ocean, and we can think of it as the immense amount of and variety and of life and activity hidden by the waves. Pisces is also a mute sign, so we would not expect big discussions or expressions at this time, but communication of feeling happens nonetheless through other means. That could be art, music, or even fashion. Any kind of nonverbal signaling dominates now. The advice now is to trust that in matters of relationship, what you want to communicate is being communicated just indirectly. March 27th, Venus conjoins Neptune at 29 Pisces. We've been here before in early February, when Venus conjoined Neptune and then the North Node for the first time. So we may well be revisiting issues that arose at that time. On a personal level, we may again experience fuzziness around relationships, and maybe we'll flail around a bit trying to determine what may be untrue or true at that time. As in February, the best strategy now is to try to understand and express concepts and feelings symbolically and metaphorically, the way that a poet would, rather than trying to apply the scalpel of logic. Remember that the nature of a symbol is to simultaneously reveal and conceal, and that is exactly what Venus with Neptune and the North Node can do. Everything can be understood on multiple levels, through different lenses, and currently, the poetic lens will be the most helpful. Being overly literal and trying to nail the truth of a relationship to the wall will prove unproductive and frustrating. But finding an image or a symbolic portrait of a situation will actually be enriching and give a great deal more meaning to the situation. March 29th, Mercury retrograde will enter Pisces. Similarly to Venus, Mercury's retrograde motion takes it back to Pisces from Aries. Mercury was in Pisces starting in mid-February, so we will revisit mercurial matters prevailing in the second half of February. Mercury will remain in Pisces through the middle of April. Even more so than Venus in Pisces, Mercury becomes highly mystical and magical in Pisces. And if he is retrograde, things get extra weird. Certainly, omens and mysterious signs and coincidences are all Mercury and Pisces stock in trade. Since Pisces is nonverbal, the universe is communicating with us in ways other than direct speech. We are asked to hold images and symbols in our minds to understand the many facets of complex situations. Pisces speaks through stories as well, and the fact that Mercury is retrograde means that we will now experience different layers of reality and unreality and are asked to simply accept it. March 29th, Mercury retrograde will conjoin Neptune at 29 Pisces. Right after entering Pisces, Mercury conjoins Neptune in the last degree and minute of the sign. It's a potent combination and will feel like a mysterious farewell to a very long-standing situation. This is the coda to Neptune's sojourn through Pisces. Mercury with Neptune can now bring about a spectacular illusion, a magical farewell before Neptune enters Aries. Something profound can be communicated now, again through the veils of symbol, story, and metaphor that sums up and describes the past 13 plus years that Neptune spent in Pisces. March 29th, we get a partial solar eclipse at 9 Aries. The ruler of this eclipse is Mars in Cancer, who is now direct and trine Saturn, Venus, and Neptune, all in Pisces. The theme of the eclipse will therefore be martial, full of conflict, but paradoxically also include a great push toward resolving conflicts. Again, we have no planets in fixed signs, so while we see a great deal of activity, it's all happening in cardinal and mutable signs, which are not known for generating lasting results. The mutable signs in particular are great negotiators and travelers, but there is the tiny problem of implementation. This feels like a great deal of movement that ultimately may mean nothing. Mars in Cancer is particularly volatile, with difficulties finding a stable frame of reference other than its own feelings and impressions. Venus, Neptune, and Saturn in Pisces, of course, are unable to add anything more definitive. It is rather like trying to nail the ocean to the wall. It cannot be done and is generally harmful to the wall. William Lilly, following Ptolemy, says of solar eclipses in the first decan of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, it portends the frequent motions of armies and rumors of wars, continual expeditions, assaults and batteries, and wars, with much noise and tumult, seditions, controversies, and intemperance of the air, verging principally unto dryness. So let us expect some saber rattling and movement of armies following this eclipse. I would add probably in a nautical setting, because the ruler of the eclipse and several other planets are in water signs. So a lot of what's going to be happening will involve islands, peninsulas, bodies of water. So this is going to be the theme now. March 30th, Neptune enters Aries for the first time since 1875. It will return to Pisces for a couple of months, and then re-enter Aries in January 2026 until 2039. So now we get Neptune in Aries until October 22nd this year, a short while in Pisces, and then back into Aries for good in early 2026. So this is really a preview of coming attractions, where we get to see what issues we'll work through while Neptune passes through Aries starting in 2026. The last time that Neptune was in Aries was from 1861 to 1875, the period that included the Civil War and its aftermath in the United States. Apart from the war, which is an obviously Marsy activity, this was a period of extremely fast and intense industrialization in the US, which resulted in highly volatile labor relations, and including that, the rise of violent anarchism. So this seems appropriate for Neptune somehow, with the idealism of Neptune combined with the warlike spirit of Aries. This period in Europe encompassed the Franco-Prussian War, also known as the War of 1870 in France, which brought great suffering to France and Paris specifically. This resulted in the unification of Germany from many little kingdoms into one nation-state. Germany as a whole is said to be ruled by Aries, so we will expect more activity in Germany in the next few years, some kind of reinvention and reprioritization. Certainly any major planet entering zero Aries represents a new beginning in the world, sometimes the start of a new state, a new dynasty, or a new political order, and we will see this to begin to take shape this year and the next. Thanks for watching. I'm Nina Griffin, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel.